Today, I am talking about the idea of being the chosen one, of being a generational curse breaker. And what better way to explain it than to use the most chosen one of all chosen ones, Harry Potter, the boy who lived himself. In today's video, I want to go through and basically answer the question,
is this all real? Or is it just happening inside my head?
Is being a chosen one real? Or is it more like a self-fulfilling prophecy?
She's only interested in you because she thinks you're the chosen one.
But I am the chosen one.
I'm going to answer that question today by explaining it through Harry Potter. And honestly, my answer to this question might be a hot take. Let's get into it. But before I start, I am wearing a Patronus necklace. It's Harry's stag Patronus. And then it says Expecto Patronum. And it even has like this little wand at the end, so you can just
Expecto Patronum!
Okay, so what is a chosen one or a generational curse breaker? It goes back to the idea that we all have a divine purpose that our souls signed up for even before we incarnated onto the earth. So we signed up to go through specific traumas, have different karmic relationships and situations. And we signed up to do all that in order to become the people we needed to be to make change. I think everyone has their different soul purpose and their contracts. And I think in some ways, honestly, we're all breaking some sort of curse. But I think that there are some specific people who have probably really binding specific parts in their contract. Take Harry, for example. He has a literal prophecy.
The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches. And the Dark Lord shall mark him as his equal, but he shall have power the Dark Lord knows not. For neither can live while the other survives.
What I love about Harry's prophecy, though, is the fact that it wasn't so specifically binding that it was definitively he would defeat Voldemort. I believe what Professor Trelawney said was, he has the power to vanquish the Dark Lord. He has the power, the capacity to. It didn't say he's definitely gonna defeat the Dark Lord. It just said that he is a person who would be able to. And also, I think the thing was it also could have been Neville, because it just predicted a boy born in, was it July? Something like that. And so that could have been him or Neville. So both of those things kind of said, the contract isn't so definitive. There's still some free will within it. So that's a key thing that I want to keep in mind. But anyway, I think a chosen one is somebody who believes that they are meant to go through these things in order to make change. What are the signs that you are a chosen one? Some of the common ones that I think a lot of us can agree with is, first of all, we've gone through hard times. We've gone through struggles, especially even at a young age. So if you take Harry, his whole childhood was just traumatic. His parents died. He was a baby. He faced the Dark Lord. His parents died. He was dropped off to really wacky, crazy, but abusive family, his aunt and uncle. And he grew up feeling basically out of place. He was isolated. He had to live in a cupboard under the stairs. He was made to feel lower than his cousin and his aunt and uncle. And so he grew up basically abused. It seems like a lot of us who identify with being the chosen one feel like we felt out of place, or the immediate environment we were in, it was like we were awake and no one else was. And this feels like it was actually intended, I'm not sure, but by Daniel Radcliffe when he was playing Harry Potter. Just look at him in the first couple scenes of The Sorcerer's Stone.
We're going to buy you 2 new presents. How's that, pumpkin?
The way he's looking, the look on his face when he's around his aunt and uncle, that's a kid who knows that he's not being treated fairly. That's a kid who is aware, that is somewhat awake, is internally pissed off, has conflict, and knows that he's being abused somewhat. That might be obvious, but I think there are some kids who take it on as they are less than. And you see it in the way Daniel Radcliffe plays him. It's almost like Harry does show signs of having an inner conviction. And honestly, though, I think most of us who've felt out of place or isolated, we had to develop something like that. Like, there had to be some sort of way where we had to develop a reliance on ourselves.
Sorry about him. He doesn't understand what it's like, lying there day after day, watching people press their ugly faces in on you.
I'm kind of curious to see how the HBO series will portray Harry pre-Hogwarts, because it seems like he's going to go a little bit more the route of seeming like an abused kid who doesn't know what's going on, which is a fair take. But I just think that the way Daniel Radcliffe played him, he played him as a kid who had that inner knowing still. I don't know. Does anyone else agree? I loved the way that Daniel Radcliffe played him, and I will also watch the HBO series, honestly. But, you know, the classic Harry Potter movies will always be my comfort movie. And I've always loved Harry, and specifically Daniel Radcliffe, because he brought that inner strength despite the hard times he went through. He showed that inner strength and that conviction that Harry has that I think makes him very characteristically a chosen one, cursebreaker type of archetype. So another sign is having this innate talent or skill, or you could say even just like a wisdom and a sense of power from a young age. So also Harry, of course, has actual magic. Like, I love that in the first couple scenes of Sorcerer's Stone, we see him talk to a snake. The snake seems to understand him, and then Harry gets annoyed at his cousin. Then the glass barrier disappears, and he's like, oh my god, I didn't know how that happened. And I just love magic in kids' movies. Like, because magic is such a metaphor for basically your inner power. And I love that this story gave this basically traumatized, abused kid this ability to figure out he had so much power. So much so that he became the hero in the magical world. But I think that a lot of us may have felt like we had this inner talent, or at least I think all of us have them, but we felt very tied to it to the point where we knew we had to use it for something. And I love it because I think that Harry also has this innate sense of justice that probably just came from him growing up the way that he did. Like, you see when he gets into Hogwarts, when he first meets Malfoy, for example, and he is like,
You'll soon find out that some wizarding families are better than others, Potter. You don't want to go making friends with the wrong sort. I can help you there.
And then Harry just goes,
I think I can tell the wrong sort for myself, thanks.
Again, the look on little Daniel Radcliffe's face when he says that, you know, this kid, when he was younger, despite being abused, despite everything he goes through, despite not knowing what it's like to be in the magical world at all, he was immediately like, no, I can tell bad energy. And that's kind of a clue too. I feel like Harry was innately intuitive. Just from that moment with Malfoy, he's innately intuitive. And again, it's this inner knowing that you carry at a young age. So another sign is going through a bunch of obstacles, but feeling like you're somewhat supposed to. And for some reason, at the end of it, you were guided along the way. So the entire Harry Potter series, like every single book is Harry Potter and the latest trauma he's going through right now that he's going to overcome, basically. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm sure if you looked at your life, you saw a lot of the parts of your life where you were definitely going through your own hero's journey, your dark night of the soul, your spiritual awakening. There are like levels of different like personal healing glow-ups that you've gone through. It's so funny because I'm sure you could like name all of them, like, you know, Harry Potter and the healing from codependency story. You know what I mean?
Aren't you put your name in a goblet of fire?
Every single year for Harry, like, the school forgets that he saved them the previous year and they doubt him. And it's crazy because I think that that's almost still metaphorical for being like a chosen one, cursebreaker. It's like you think that you have shown up, that you have helped people, that you have healed, and then you face another situation and there's still doubt, and there's still people that you run into that don't believe you, that don't believe in you. It's interesting how even the label doesn't save you from having to do your own personal work to grow your inner self-esteem and your confidence.
Your evidence?
I just know.
You just know. Once again, you astonish with your gifts, Potter. Gifts mere mortals can only dream of possessing. How grand it must be to be the chosen one.
Another one is just generally feeling like you were guided to do all of those things. And that's what feels really interesting about Harry, because he has this inner wisdom, he has this knowing, he seems very intuitive, very instinctive as well. Like every time he faces something, yeah, Hermione studied it and she's definitely helping. And then Ron's also helping over there too. But Harry just kind of in the moment has this bravery that I think stems from his intuition, from his instinct. He just kind of knows, I am here to do this. I know what to face here. I'm going to choose courage and bravery. That is your own sense of conviction, and that's also your own sense of knowing yourself, right? And I think for a lot of us, whatever we've faced, we just kind of know which decision to choose in the end. You know, like we decide we are faced with something really hard. I'm not going to just take the easy route. I may not take the learned route either. I'm just going to take the route that feels like the most needed. And I know that I am here to do that. So here's the thing though. If you look back at all of those signs, they seem to be kind of realistic. They kind of realistically build you up to want to be a chosen one or a hero. So let's go back through them again. Let's say you have gone through a lot of trauma, like Harry. You have been orphaned. You've gone through abuse. Going through all of those things would give you more motivation to help. Like going through all those things would give you motivation to want to be a hero because you've witnessed it. You want to avenge something. You want to right a wrong. You have felt to the depths the level of wrongdoing that other people have done. So you have so much knowledge to fuel what you can, whatever you want to do to help other people like you. So of course, it's a natural consequence of going through a lot of things. And also, I will just say, the idea that you are special, that you are chosen, is still kind of natural. If you've gone through so much significant trauma, you might in some ways be an outlier. It's not the best way to be an outlier, but you have understood some things to the depths, to the shadow, to the darkest parts of them that many other people don't understand, but they can sympathize with. Like having that deeper knowledge, going through what you went through, gives such a different outlying perspective that only you really know. You and a handful of others really understand it. And so that's what makes you the person who can help other people with it. So what about having innate skills and talent and power? It's interesting because you think about Harry, he gets the label the boy who lived since he was a baby, as if it was him being a powerful baby that made, the Dark Lord's curse rebound and like not kill him. Actually, and we find this out in the first book/movie, it was his mom's protection, his mother's love and protection spell that made it so that the death curse wouldn't actually kill Harry. It wasn't Harry's power innately. But I will argue, even though the prophecy says that Harry has the power to defeat the Dark Lord, it almost feels like it was from that moment on. From that moment when he wasn't able to be killed, then Voldemort was like, I want to defeat this kid, thus being a projection and a target. And by being a target to Voldemort, he was already having the responsibility of being the one that needed to vanquish him anyway. Does that make sense? So yeah, sidebar, but his mom doesn't get any credit. Like his parents never really get the sort of like hero treatment themselves. Like they died for their cause. Like all the order, they all died, and like, or like the people who died in the order, they don't get enough sort of like hero-dom and stuff like Harry has. But anyway, not to put down the idea that we have innate talent, but when you think about it, like to zoom out a little bit, when you think about it, some of our innate talents, some of our things that we were born with, they may have came because they were somewhat either inherited or they were part of how we grew up or how our lives were set up for us. So along with that is also the idea of whether or not we have innate intuition and wisdom, or if that's just from being a kid that's gone through a lot of trauma. Like, think about Harry and how he had to grow up with his aunt and uncle. He grew up in a cupboard under the stairs. He was probably having to be hyper vigilant from such a young age. He had to learn to scan for danger. He had to learn how to basically read between the lines because he knew something was going to happen to him. Like, having an amount of abuse and also experiencing not being heard or taken seriously or treated as equal, you have to be a couple steps ahead so that you protect yourself. So I think that you grow your intuition, you grow your ability to rely on yourself when you've gone through things like that. And to be honest, I feel like his aunt and uncle were training grounds for him to be able to handle Voldemort and all the other things he had to help with at school once he got to Hogwarts. Like, it's kind of frustrating and annoying to think about it, but when you do think about it, there are some skills, there's some wisdom, let's say, that you build when you've gone through hard things, when you've gone through traumas. And when you take it in a healthy way, you can take the healthier pieces of that and use those as skills for whatever else you face in the future. Okay, so what about all of the times where Harry had to save the world, save the school, had to be the one hero that everyone relied on? I feel like, obviously, you can argue it's because everyone thought he was supposed to be. Like, from everyone giving him the boy who lived, the chosen one, like the one who's supposed to defeat, like, Voldemort. Everyone thought he was supposed to be. So they all just kind of were like, well, Harry's gonna do it. Like, oh, we have to build up Harry. And actually, what's really interesting is Dumbledore is a huge reason why Harry lived out his prophecy. Because Trelawney told Dumbledore first about it. Dumbledore, from the moment Harry was like orphaned, Dumbledore decided, okay, Harry's gonna be the one to carry this out. When you really think about it, I also think that, and now I'm trying to make a point about being like the realistic things, but to make it a little spiritual for a second, when you think about it, Dumbledore is such an embodiment of when the universe guides you, right? Dumbledore decided, I'm going to believe in this prophecy, so I'm going to be the one to guide this kid to go through it. I'm going to be here for as long as I can in order to sort of oversee and somewhat guide this kid, but I'm not going to do everything for him.
Look at me!
I know that there is possibly a form of the Dark Lord on one of my professors' like back of his heads, but I'm gonna have Harry take care of it. I don't know how conscious Dumbledore was of that, but like there were so many things that Dumbledore had an inkling about. Like even specifically you see it like plainly in Prisoner of Azkaban. Like he knows that there is a way to save Buckbeak and Sirius. Dumbledore's not doing it himself. He's allowing Harry and Hermione, and I guess Ron a little bit in that movie, He's allowing them to learn how to save them. Why is that? Why is that? I feel like, okay, so back to the point about being realistic. I think because Dumbledore specifically believed in the prophecy, he helped orchestrate and guide Harry into believing in it as well. That's also almost symbolic of our spiritual guides, right? Because there are people in the world who believe in divine guidance and religion, because there are people who decide and who make it their mission to embody spirituality and spirit and soul contracts and things like that. They are the ones to help other people find out their faith. So I don't know that it's because there was an existing prophecy, and it was set in stone, that Harry did everything he did. But I do think that Dumbledore believing in that prophecy and guiding him was a huge reason why it was carried out. And you even see it, at the end of, I think it was, the last book / movie, Snape even says,
"You've been raising him like a pig for slaughter."
This kid is being built up to be this hero because you believed it. You didn't help him every time you had a little inkling, but you didn't help him as much. You let him learn until he was strong enough to embody and live out his purpose and to save the world. And Dumbledore, when you think about it, I've had a little bit of questioning about Dumbledore for years, but when you think about it, Dumbledore is just kind of embodying spirit, the universe, and thinking, yeah, but this is this kid's purpose, And then I think that's crazy. But anyway, you could argue that it's partly because Dumbledore that Harry decided to live out the prophecy. Let's answer the question. Is being a chosen one really an actual spiritually led real phenomenon, or is it just a self-fulfilling prophecy? My answer is...
Of course it's happening inside your head, Harry. Why should that mean that it's not real?
I think it's both. That might be annoying, but I think it's both. But also by default, by thinking it's both, I also think I still kind of am on the side of it's actually spiritual. So let me explain. I think by default, the existence of everything on the earth is inherently a spiritually led thing. Because what created anything? And that's my belief system. But, if you break it down a little bit more, I think that that the universe created the ability to have free will, but to also enact it at the same time while building up the right situations and the ability to create balance and the order of things on the earth. So I'm a huge believer of kind of the law of balance, or karma, cause and effect. If you do something, an equal reaction will come around and have to balance it out. Also, what is that? Newton's law? But I think that if something happens to you, and if you are a unique situation where it doesn't happen to everybody, then you have the power, you have an immense amount of energy and experience and depth of understanding of something to the point where you are an outlying person who can help others who are going through that thing. If you go through your unique types of trials and tribulations, and especially if it's not as pronounced or it's not as something that is as normal, then yeah, you have the ability to be the one who breaks the curses, that has a different perspective, that can change things.
I'm going to tell you something. Something others have only guessed at. It's true. I am the chosen one.
I think that those preset conditions in Harry's life is the reason why he had so much knowledge and experience to handle being the chosen one. So going back again, Harry did not have the free will as a baby to actively defeat and like not get hit by the death curse. Like, it was his mother. So he was actually protected by something else. Harry did not choose to live with his aunt and uncle. It was somebody else. I think it was Dumbledore, actually. So he didn't have free will in either of those situations. But in both of those situations, things happened to him. He was heavily projected on as the boy who lived. He had, Dumbledore decided to believe in the prophecy for Harry. And so I would argue in Harry's case, and I think for a lot of us, Harry was heavily projected on. And he learned to accept it and to work with it and to accept the responsibility of it. But basically in his life, in Harry's case anyway, most of his situations that built him up were not of his free will at all, were not of his choice. It was how his life and conditions were already set up. And so there is a lot of it where we didn't choose to be in our environments. It wasn't our choice after we were born. You could still say it was our soul's choice to pick that trajectory. Either way, though, I think that all of these preset conditions were not something that the conscious 3D baby chose. It had to either be his soul or just other people. But that's where you could see, like, all those conditions where he had to learn how to survive. He had to learn to rely on himself. Like, that was also of his free will, and that was his choice. So I think it's really interesting because I feel like Harry had to work with all the preset conditions and the projections that were already on him. And in Harry's case, however, his projections were that he would be a hero. But he always grappled with it. He was always like, do I want to live up to being a hero? Like, why am I being the chosen one? Like, am I really supposed to carry this out? Why does it have to be me? Do I know I can do it? He was constantly doubting himself. And so having the projections, the prophecy, believing you're the chosen one doesn't mean that you are going to be the chosen one. I think throughout the movies, he learns to continue to build his self-power and self-belief, which is part of the path that anyone takes to being a chosen one, And here's the thing, also not of his free will, he had a piece of Voldemort in him. He was a Horcrux. He had the ability to be evil also. That's what's really interesting about Harry Potter too. Like, this person who was prophesized to being the person who could vanquish the Dark Lord, in the last book, in the last movie, we find out he always had a piece of evil in him. And so throughout the whole series, when he was doubting himself, when he was like speaking parcel tongue, when he was like having lots of rage, he was feeling the part of evil in him that he always could have acted on more. The Sorting Hat said he could have been in Slytherin and done great things, but he chose not to do that because he didn't want to. So Harry, despite having this prophecy of being like the hero, also had evil in him the whole time anyway. But he chose to be the hero.
Why then did the Sorting Hat place you in Gryffindor?
Because I asked it to.
Exactly, Harry, exactly. Which makes you different from Voldemort. It is not our abilities that show what we truly are. It is our choices.
I think a lot of the reason why, though, is because he was being built up to be the hero. So here's the thing, though. It is nature and nurture at the same time. It is both. And even having the label of being the hero didn't guarantee to him that he believed he could be. In the end, he didn't know if he would live or die or if he'd even really vanquish the Dark Lord, but he decided to just try. And at the end of the day, I think that's the best that a lot of us can do, whether we believe we're the chosen ones or not. And I think that Harry, knowing that his mother protected him out of love, decided to choose love and bravery all the time.
Sweetheart, you're ready.
Let go! Let go!
But all of these things were still choices. And also, I will say, when you think about the other characters, like, it is true because for them, a lot of the other characters did not have the label of being the chosen one, but they decided to fight and use their free will and do what they needed to anyway. And the thing is even though Harry was the chosen one who would defeat the Dark Lord, he needed all of their help. There wasn't a way that Harry could really defeat the Dark Lord without having a team of other people fighting against all the other Death Eaters. You know, he needed support.
Once I make my move, the Queen will take me. Then you're free to check the King.
No. Ron, no!
What is it? He's going to sacrifice himself.
No, you can't! There must be another way!
Do you want to stop Snape from getting that stone or not? Harry, it's you that has to go on. I know it. Not me, not Hermione.
The biggest takeaway for me from Harry Potter and just the idea of being a chosen one is that I think we're all kind of the chosen one in different ways. Yes, some people may stand out more and they may be the bigger outliers that we know the names of, but I don't think it matters whether or not you are the most popular change maker in the world or whether you are a change maker but not a lot of people know you. You know what I mean? You and your impact still matters. You still have the ability to change things. Either way, we all have a soul purpose and it's still going to carry out some sort of karma or lessons or purpose in our lives as well.
Harry's heart did beat for us. For all of us. It's not over.
So even though I love Harry Potter, I love a good hero story, Harry himself is just an example of the most popular of chosen ones, of change makers, you know? It doesn't mean that not everyone can be. I think everyone is. Everyone is breaking through. Every generation, when you think about it, every generation needs to evolve and like learn from the previous generation. Every generation of people has the power to change and break generational curses. And the last thing I'll say is, whether or not you believe you're a chosen one, you don't necessarily obviously need a bunch of trauma or hard times or a lot of understanding, but you do have to be able to believe the people who have gone through it and to have enough empathy and love and care to fight alongside those people as well. It doesn't matter, you don't necessarily have to go through all those things, but if you haven't or not to the same level as somebody else, you can still obviously make change based on just your level of empathy and love, which is what all of Harry's friends and people around him did. So anyway, hopefully that was kind of like a cool review and breakdown. I want to also just generally react to each of the movies, but for now, I think I also want to do a couple other videos. So one of them on basically how different people react to their purpose, whether they were the chosen one or not. So specifically, how Harry, Ron, and Hermione react to situations. You know, Ron is not the chosen one, Hermione's not the chosen one, but Harry is. And I also want to break down Harry and Dumbledore's relationship a little bit more, because essentially I feel like it symbolizes our relationship to spirit, guides, to the universe. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I might also just, I don't know, do something on the astrology of Harry Potter characters, because J.K. Rowling actually intentionally gave them birthdays that matched like their personalities, like their zodiac signs. So I'm going to be doing that, and maybe I can do endless Harry Potter content. So stay tuned for that. But until next time, peace and love. Bye. So here's my wand. Back here I have a chocolate frog box. Chocolate frog box. Ooh, this feels like power. This feels great. I fucking love Harry Potter, bro.